Welcome back to Talkin' Shop Podcast, Ohio's #1 running podcast. This is Noah Graham, joined here alongside with Hunter Moore and Nathan Moore. We're sitting here post-state meet weekend. Some cool things happened. I'm really happy because my alma mater, Marlington, won back-to-back years. Colin Cernansky as well took home the individual title. I could talk about Marlington all day, but that's not the podcast.
I did it without you this year. You got to be proud of them.
I'm proud of them. They scored.
Boys grew up, didn't they?
We had a running joke because we last year we scored less points.
A running joke or a running joke?
Shut up.
Okay.
We scored less points than them last year at the district and regional meet, and then me and my teammate from last year that's at YSU got waxed at the state meet. They scored 20 less points this year. So,
wow.
But we had more Ohioans last year as well, so
wow.
It's whatever. But anywho, we're just going to run through each race, give a little bit of recap, talk about some things, talk about some of the best freshmen from this weekend at the end,
Absolutely.
And then kind of what we're looking forward, hoping to see at some of these regional and national meets.
Before we start, Graham,
yeah,
we just for people who didn't know, I'm sure everyone knows, but the weather. It wasn't that perfect, crisp November afternoon you would think it'd be. It was windy, wasn't it?
Insanely windy.
Right.
It was, 25-plus mile-an-hour winds.
Rather warm, too, really.
For a November
This
Saturday.
is weird because in 2020, it was kind of like this, too, minus the wind.
Yeah.
It was very warm, like 72.
It was way warmer in 2020.
You think?
Yeah, it was beating hot.
72, 75-ish.
Yeah. Anyways, we could discuss weather, but I think on the day we're looking 10 to 15 second, 10 to 15 second delay on these.
And you guys had a little bit. You guys ran Finley that day. It was also very.
Yeah, we ran our conference meet.
Right.
The wind was very rough to deal with, so we know that it makes things a lot difficult.
Yes.
Obviously, which everyone knows, but
yeah. So we'll get right into it. We'll start off with Division I. Connor Ackley, as projected, state champ, 15:10. Like we said, the wind, I'd be curious. I obviously wasn't there. I can watch race videos, but it's hard to get a real grasp what everything was going through. Division I got out in, I believe, 4:51, which has got to be one of the slowest first miles outside of, I think in 2018, the course was like swamped. They delayed it that year. On any time where the course is of normal conditions, I mean, you're usually looking at least a 440, 445,
well,
at least 445.
I feel like that's a telltale sign that this was obviously a weather factored race almost.
Right, absolutely. So obviously you hit the mile. There's 25 different guys right at the front.
Right.
Came through 4:51. Second mile, Connor Ackley and Tommy Rice kind of broke off. They went basically split even. Came through a 9:43, which is still a hair slow, just a little over 15 flat pace.
Yeah.
But regardless, they separated themselves by 7 seconds from the next team till over that last mile. Ackley broke away, winning 15:10 to actually Sam Raschuti from Dublin Jerome. We've been talking about him all year. Came from deep, 15:25.6, beaten race by last 1.2.
He must have closed really, really well that last mile.
He must have closed hard. I mean, 9:50 finished. It's just, and I will say, if you go back, anyone that wants to watch that finish video over a mile split,
they got it up.
It looks like Tommy when he felt, I don't know, and I haven't talked to Tommy about it, but when he thought that he couldn't win, wasn't the strongest finish he's ever had, which is understandable. I think a lot of we've seen, you see that sort of thing all the time. Also, we had Tommy Rice on the podcast last week. Little technical difficulty on my part. Our mics were double dipping into the computer, causing that echo that you heard. So huge apology for that. Still good content though. It's definitely audible.
Yeah, still check it out.
If you want to give it a good listen. He talks about a lot of cool things with his college search. I think the guy went on like 30 schools, visited 20 or something crazy like that.
The real life version of The Bachelorette for college.
Doesn't even make sense.
Do you accept this rose, Tennessee?
No.
It makes sense. I like that.
Anyway, Connor Ackley won, Sam Raschuti 2, Tommy Rice 15:26 in third, and then Ben Gableman, another junior, and then Innocent Natwali rounding out the 5.
Innocent Natwali, man, he's come alive rather well. I mean, I remember when Landon Kimmel beat him a few weeks back, and ever since then he's kind of stepped up his game and takes away 4th.
Yeah, he showed that senior strength. That's that's what's all about. The state meet.
He'd be the best guy in the South then, right?
And I was looking at his mile split the other day. I don't think he did anything remotely close to that in the spring on the track. So he's really set up. He's ran some really quick times this year. He's been under 15:20 a few times. He's set up for a phenomenal track season.
For some college recruiting out there, I feel like.
I want to give an individual shout out to Elijah Hadler from Medina Highland, one of the biggest winners of this meet. I believe. What was he at the regional meet?
He was second at the regional meet.
Okay,
Second
never
in
mind.
region.
Not a huge surprise then. I thought it was further back, but he ran a really good race. 9th place, moved up 21 spots in the last mile. Very impressive.
Absolutely.
And this is a guy who really did.
Senior.
Yeah, he did not have his name out there a ton last year. He comes up, steps up, does it.
I think we talked about him a little on a previous podcast.
We
but,
did.
He's a big tennis guy. Does tennis in the spring.
Oh, that's him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Originally was going to go play tennis
I didn't
and
realize.
run at D3, I believe. But
I know, that was
I'd
a
imagine
guy.
things might change a little bit now.
Yeah.
But, yep, on the Mason goes back-to-back. Something a lot of people aren't going to know. Mason only had 6 guys finish. Their number 1 runner did not finish the race.
Really?
And they still won by 14 points. Isaac Schlattler did not finish.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Mason still managed to
didn't know
beat state runner-up St. X
I mean,
by
you-
14
You
points.
can see by the tight split, man. 38 second, 1 to 5. No one in the top 7 or 8 is even close to that. They're all over a minute.
Absolutely, and I think Nathan and obviously Hunter was here last week too, but we were specifically talking about how just anything can happen at these kinds of meets, and you're telling me how could this be the deepest state meet we've ever seen? Well, I think a lot of years things are set up to look like that, but really anything can happen. Mason 6 guys finished. Jackson was in state runner-up position 2 miles in, probably even 2.5 miles in. Their 4th runner did not finish the race, or 3rd or 4th, 5th. Will Prado. Anything can happen. I mean, it's crazy. Guys
they
are
say.
completely out of it. Elijah Hathard
Part of sport.
comes up 21 spots in the last mile.
That's
I mean,
big.
the more you scroll down, you see some big numbers. Guys,
why
James
we love the
Howell,
sport.
40th, 36 spots
Yeah.
in the last mile. Other guys drop 21 spots in the last mile.
Can happen,
But
yeah.
it just anything can happen. But obviously awesome race to those guys. I'm sure we're going to be hearing a commitment from Ackley soon. That's going to be one of the biggest commitments in the nation. He's currently ranked 14th in the power rankings. We'll talk about Mason a little bit later too with some of these postseason meets, but it'll be interesting to see because if they would have had Isaac, they would have won that meet handily. I believe they're top 20 or 25 or so in the nation. 20. So they're positioned pretty well going into NXR next weekend, which I'm assuming they'll run.
You would think. You would really
We're
think.
recording this on a Monday, and entries are due later today. So
Are they?
Yes. So we'll be back next week.
I like to see
talking about
Lancaster
those.
enter that. I think they have a real shot too at the Nike National meet.
You said Lancaster?
Yeah, I hope they enter into it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they're 3rd overall at the meet. Obviously, you got to be top 2. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know, man.
Be interesting for sure.
I
Honestly,
just like those triplets, man. It's sick.
it is cool to have that many fast triplets. Honestly, nothing too surprising on the Division I men's side. Anything can happen, but overall, Ackley, just typical work. Couldn't go under 15.
I want to give some shout outs to two of the biggest team winners who moved up from their previous rankings in the coaches poll pre-state. Previously ranked in the coaches poll, Glen Oak was ranked number 18th, and they came away
11th.
with an 11th place finish, which was very good. Medina Highland, ranked all the way back in 20th, comes all the way up to 12th place.
There you go.
So very surprising. Once again, just showing that anything can happen
Yeah.
if you and your squad run well on the day. Someone's going to blow up. Someone's going to run out of their head. That's just how it goes, and that's the beauty of our sport.
Yeah.
So
Shout out Neo Schools for not running on Fast Columbus courses.
Okay.
Anywho, on to Division I
Sorry.
girls.
All right.
This is one of my favorite. This is probably the best race of the day, or I'm sorry, best individual performance of the day. Katie Clute had her on the podcast the other week. 17:25, won by 19 seconds. That is absolutely flying. We're talking about a 17:10 or under performance. Without the wind as crazy as it was. I mean, that is
impressive.
just flying. I know we were when I was talking to her, we were talking about trying to get close to that state meet record. It's just a hair under 17:10. I'm sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head now, but that is just, I mean, crazy. In this a lot of these race videos or finish line videos, are kind of cool to go watch. She just ran 17:25. It's gonna be one of the fastest times in state meet history. She walks off, grabs a bottle of water, and just keeps walking like nothing happened.
Professional.
Which is crazy. You watch some of these guys, and there's no knock on any of these people, but
This guy?
in a lot of these
Bro.
in a lot of these other races, even just this past weekend, the winners or guys throughout the whole race get done and just collapse. Obviously,
Yeah.
they ran really hard, but Katie Clute, one of the best performances in state meet history, grabs a water bottle, keeps walking. Like it's which is
Standard
classy.
procedure.
Classy.
I just
I
want to say
mean-
when I finished mine, I won. I barely finished. Like if it was another 20, 30 meters, it would have been questionable whether I would have fallen or not, but I finish. And I remember watching the video, and one of the officials, like tries to give me a high five. I'm so out of it at the video. I don't even see it.
Slap him
And
or
then
something?
one of my teammates gets onto the field, comes up, and like hugs me or whatever, and I almost just completely fall down. He comes up to me, and I'm like, no, stop, please stop. Like I'm gonna fall down. Please don't. I was so scared in the moment. I had no energy.
Do you
But,
respect the Katie Clute
yeah.
walk off then? by that?
yeah, in
Okay.
short though.
Here we go.
Katie
That's what I
Clute.
was wondering where that was going. But Katie Clute, obviously a huge day. She talks a little bit on the podcast what her plans are coming up. I think it's no NXR for her, which is kind of a shame. She'd arguably be a front runner to make that NXN, but
Foot Locker,
and running lane. Her goals this year. We'll see. Interesting. I mean, running lane obviously super competitive meet, fast meet.
Yeah,
But there is a prestige of being an NXN qualifier.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's cool. Maybe she's in search of that, just flying time. I didn't get too into the weeds with her about why she wanted each one, but could be interesting.
She has a legit shot at sub 17 at that running lane course. It's pretty.
I would
blazing.
sure think so.
Which
think
would be-
so.
Oh yeah,
One of the
even
only
quicker.
Yeah.
second or third girl ever in Ohio history to do that. If
Right.
So,
Obviously, hopefully she makes the Foot Locker national
Yeah,
team as well.
right.
She had I don't remember off the top of my head. She has some really good reasoning why she chose that Foot Locker meet specifically, and thought it was. In
there
her
is some
best
rich history
interest
with
to go
Foot Locker
there.
as well. I mean,
Yes.
it's prestigious as well.
Right.
Maybe not as much as it used to be, of course, but they still get some of the top people.
Right,
I feel like.
absolutely. But
Mhm.
Katie Clute, 17:25, followed up by Sarah Peer. We've been talking about her
Yeah.
all year. 17:44, second fastest time of the day. Just a junior. I'm sure she'll be anxious for Katie Clute to be gone last year because next place was 34 seconds behind her.
Maybe Sarah Pierce time to shine next year.
Absolutely. Abby Drozdak from Northmont, Caitlin Jones from Hilliard-Davidson, and Evelyn Praudel from Lakota West rounded out your top five. Going over to the team scores, Mason girls made a Mason double on the men's and the women's side.
Yeah.
They won in 75 points to Hilliard-Davidson's 91. You
Couple
get
of
two
those
teams
scores,
under
yeah.
100 points. They were exactly 100. Pretty high-quality field. Westlake at 3. I was pulling for Westlake in my predictions last week. I think they ran in comparison a little bit better at regionals than they did.
Yeah.
They did the state meet, but that's okay. Happens to best of us. But Mason 75, Hilliard-Davidson 91, Westlake 151. So far, I believe we all called the men's race.
We did.
Mason and
Ackley.
Ackley, and then everyone called Clute. I believe both you guys called Mason.
Yeah.
I was hoping Westlake
So,
would pull it off.
Coach's poll ended up being very accurate. The pre-state poll for OHSAA. Guessed the top four correctly: Mason, Davidson, Westlake, and Perrysburg. So
There you go.
good for them.
A very surprising finish from Lakota West team, who was ranked 13th coming into it and finished 7th. So
It's always happy. Always happy to pull
We
off
know some
something
Lakota
crazy at the
West
state
kids,
meet.
so I'm sure they're pretty happy. Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely. All right, we'll move over to the alma mater, Division II boys, Marlington with an absolutely dominating win.
Duke
I'll hit
Nation,
team
let's ride, baby.
I'll hit team before individual on this one. 56
That's
points
terrible.
to Carroll's 149 in second place. These were the top two teams coming into the year. Woodridge got third. I'm off the top. I think Woodridge was around third, fourth, fifth coming into the year. They fell back, but Coach Howard, arguably the most legendary coach
We said he would.
in
We
Ohio
said-
history,
we called
and
that.
here he was. I mean, right on time when it counts, third place. To my knowledge, Marlington's 56 points is the third lowest ever in Division II history. The current state record's 38 points, Woodridge 2019, and then Woodridge 43 points.
Wow.
06, 07, maybe 05, right around there. Which that team was actually better than the Woodridge team that has the record. That team made it to NXN. They were 16th or so.
Holy.
Had a phenomenal
Woodridge
year.
team made it to NXN?
Yes, they did.
When?
Back in mid 2000s, 05, 06, 07. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
I
It's
didn't know
something to
that.
take a look after
Yeah.
that. Obviously, one of our biggest talks in Division II men's is all season long been Colin Cernansky and Jack Agnew.
It's a battle.
Jack Agnew, defending state champ, ran 9:10 on the track as well. We knew it was going to be close. Colin Cernansky Jr. from Marlington, my former teammate, ran 4:14, state champ in the mile. We knew it was going to be close all year. They've both put down a lot of fast times, and it was pretty much wire to wire.
When was the pull away?
Coming into the stadium. I mean,
Really?
you talk about few kids can close. I mean, you leave it up to a kick with the state champ, the mile. Kids split 155. He just
Young,
kind of showed that
Yeah.
closing speed over the last 150.
I just feel like Agnew doesn't have that speed quite yet, at least.
Right.
At least as well as Cernansky's shown on the
Right.
track.
Yeah, absolutely.
Benefited him for sure.
So huge day for him. I mean, a lot of career left. You have 2 individual state titles. Obviously, you could have some big indoor things come, but then you talk about an outdoor, maybe a double for Cernansky. Carroll was D1 last year. They actually dropped to D2 this year.
Let's go.
So it'd be a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
You talk about Agnew, who's a pure distance guy. Not necessarily being the favorite in that 2 mile, but with a PR of 9:10, and then Colin being that state champ in the mile. But now with the 5K as well, what does that kind of mean for Colin's track? Do you double? Do you just go for the 2 mile?
Yeah,
Right.
I'd like to see a
absolutely.
battle, obviously, but it's up to them.
Obviously, Agnew's not coming down to the mile.
No, he wouldn't do that.
But does Colin just keep it with the 16? Does he go for the 32? I think it'll play a little bit what relays look like.
See you in 6 months.
Absolutely, things like that as well. Third place,
Yeah,
Marcus
Runkle, man.
Runkle, huge race for him. I talked about him last week. I said maybe he could squeeze in there. I didn't know he ran 15:40 over at Pickerington. Cernansky, Agnew 15:26.29, Marcus Runkle 15:36,
Great
rounding out the
performance.
top 5. Marlington putting 3 in the top 5. 15:56, 15:57, Nash Minor and Mike Nichols. I mean, huge races for them.
Yeah.
Any division school puts 3 in the top 5. That's impressive. It's not too biased for me to say either.
Nonetheless,
So,
yeah, D2 team doing it.
awesome
Good for them.
race for them. Moving over to D2 girls, Nathan, unless you got a crazy stat for us for D2 boys.
I don't have a crazy stat, but I do want to say that I was working at Sheetz last night, and
yeah.
Colin Cernansky's mom came in and ordered some food. So
Hey.
I just want to put that out there.
There you go, Cernansky's shop at Sheets. D2 girls, lot of questions coming into this race. We knew Bella Butler was going to be a heavy favorite individually. She secured that 18:09 to Samantha Urbach, who she's went off against several times this season, 18:24. So a 15-second win for Bella. A little slow time on the day. We've talked about this wind and how crazy it was. I'm not sure on the specifics for each race. At the end of the day, a state title is a state title.
Yeah. Maybe she didn't have to work as hard to get that.
And that really wasn't the big question coming in. The big question coming in was the women's team
team side.
scores.
Yeah.
We had Granville, Lexington, Minerva. We were all new. We're really tight coming in. Not sure who was going to win that. But ultimately, Granville came out on top. Kenston, I don't remember what they were ranked off the top of my head. Hunter, we have that
Kinston's
stat.
Division 2?
They dropped.
Kenston,
Yes.
it was
What?
ranked 7th coming in from the pre-state pool.
Kenston was ranked 7th coming in. They got second on the day, 130 Granville to Kenston's 155. Phenomenal race for
sure it'd
Kenston.
be Granville, Lexington, or Lexington, Granville. Not
Defending
yeah.
state champs Minerva, 4th place, 188 points.
Yeah.
They brought back 4 people from last year. Lost their second runner. Just never quite were as dominant as they were last year. This was kind of what we expected, though. It's a high-scoring affair, 130 points.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of 130,
It was
155,
close.
164,
It wasn't a blow up
188.
by any means.
Right. So a lot of we saw. A little bit
And
interesting.
did we all guess that correctly? I forget. I know.
Yes, we did.
I had
Bella Butler,
Granville.
Granville. I believe
So
we all did.
my first miss so far would have been the I had Agnew. Cernansky had him. Are you still clean? Before we've gone-
No, I had Westlake winning D1 girls.
I think I'm the only one clean.
You had Agnew, I thought.
Yeah, you had Agnew.
Never mind.
Fake. Little fun fact: Alexa Fortman, defending 800-meter state champ, ran 2:08 on the track. Showed some range on the grass. Ran 18:42 for 6th place, but
It's almost faster than me.
we'll move down to D3 now.
Wait. I have a crazy stat.
Okay. Crazy stat.
Salem, ranked number 13, moves up to all the way to 5th place in the team scores.
There they go. Good
From
for
their
Salem.
pre-state poll to their team race.
Good.
I think that's the biggest jump of the day, most significant jump we've seen all day. So that's very cool.
There you go. And by the way,
Let's see
Minerva
that.
4, Salem 5. They're from the same conference. 6-point difference. My point is, it sucked to be 5th in the state, not even be able to win your own conference.
That it would.
But think about if you're Marlington, you're
That'll
third.
happen.
You're 5th in the state, and you got 3rd in your conference meet. But that's how great great teams are made.
Yeah.
So move over to D3 boys. Usually D3 can be a little unexciting. I thought there's some pretty cool things, and I'll get into that when we kind of talk about the wrap up of the meet as a whole. East Canton's Brylan Holland, who 108th into the left of me, thought was going to win this. They said experience. Experience shows through.
Yeah.
The senior from East Canton, they won the state meet last year as a team. I believe he's 8th or 9th overall. Won 15:41 to Luke Snyder, only a freshman
You gotta
from
give
Rittman.
credit.
Been talking about him all year
Yeah.
long. I love this kid. He's got a lot of fight. Second in 15:50.
Fastest freshman time of the day, I'd think.
yes,
Landon Kimmel didn't break 16. He was around
Correct.
16 flat.
Correct. It'll be really interesting to see what this kid can do in the upcoming years. I have no reason to believe he's gonna get any worse, but we've seen crazier things happen
Yeah.
than or feels out. But I like this kid a
All
lot.
the
He had a lot
best
of fight. I
Snyder.
watched him at the Boardman Regional. Kid can fight hard, but really Brylan kind of wrapped it up from the gun.
Yeah.
You look over at the splits. They have a 450-meter split, and then of course the 1, the 2, and the finish. Brylan led from the gun.
Knew what he wanted.
Knew what he wanted, and Luke Snyder's was in second from the gun. Obviously 15:50, still a phenomenal time.
Absolutely.
But
Easily Brylan's best race of the season. He's ran
Yeah.
15:41,
Oh, yeah.
15:42
But on this
in a
day-
handful of days, but this is probably,
This
you
would've
take
been a
off
big
10,
PR
15
effort.
seconds.
Right.
And if you look in the Division 1 race, I feel like it's not very often that a D3 kid would have placed like 8th or 9th in that race. Sure, it was probably a little cooler in the
Sure.
morning.
And if you think about
But-
as well, even just kind of where we were at our meet, it wasn't quite as windy in the morning, and it really got picked up as we moved into the day. Although they did race at 11, so let me take that back.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously phenomenal races for them. Landon Armstrong and Eric Nygaard from Bluffton, 3rd and 4th. Interesting fact: Bluffton went 3-4. They were 10th overall. Not sure what they had rounded out, but then White Oak, Landon Iyer, 1604 rounded out that top 5. Mount Gilead, we all predicted 82 points. Obviously, you get under that triple digits. You're talking about big wins. 82
Yeah.
to Mount Gilead, Mount Gilead 82. Ottawa Hills is 151.
I feel like
So
you almost double team score. You're looking pretty good. Or half a
Absolutely.
team score. Right?
dominating performance from Mount Gilead.
we all had that, I think.
16:39 average.
Yeah.
We did 16:39
Yeah.
average. Just a minute 5 split.
Love to see it.
Obviously, you get close to about that 60-second split, 5-man
Yeah.
split.
OTC
You're looking
predicted
pretty
all
good.
that too. OTC had Mount Gilead, Ottawa Hills, Summit County Day, which is what actually happened.
Yep.
So,
Awesome
good
race
stuff.
for
yeah.
all of them. Mount Gilead's solid. I mean, they came on strong this year. They were led by Will Baker in 10th, only a sophomore. And then I'm looking as I got it up in front of me. Their first was a sophomore. Their second's a junior. Then they get a little bit of age. But when you have your top two both being young guys, future's bright.
Future's bright.
So I'm gonna move over to D3, arguably the most impressive
Yeah.
on the day, and we've been talking
Individual
about this
side.
all
Oh,
year.
Sure, yeah.
We've been talking about this all year. Paige Stank from Anna. She's been running well all year. We've
She has
talked
been.
about her.
Yes, she
Won in
has.
17:46. Won by 19 seconds to second places Jaylee Wingate and Callie Richards, who both actually on here says they both had 18:05.8. It was down to the line. I keep talking about
Jeez.
these finish line videos, but you can see that
Did you
there.
watch
It's-
that one?
I did. It's
Okay.
you can't even tell who won. Paige, obviously phenomenal win. Just kind of ran away
Wow.
with it.
22nd
Came through
Vic.
third at the mile, but first at the 2 mile, just hammered it home that last mile. Jaylee Wingate's been running quick all year.
Yeah.
Callie Richards, hey, talk
Wow.
about better late than never.
Yeah.
I think our very first podcast, we did, those high school rankings, and she was someone that I just wanted to talk about. I was like, she's the defending state champ. I don't even think she's broken 19 minutes yet this year, but she's just, let's watch for her. She's defending state champ, so she deserves some respect.
Yeah.
Well, she was less than a tenth of a second away from being state runner-up,
Yeah.
so better late
On a
than never. I mean,
Great
my gosh.
individual division. This is one of the most stacked Division 3 girls have ever been.
Absolutely.
So this is just one trip to sucks. None of us had Paige win in that race.
Nobody.
I had Wingate, and you guys had Hipple.
Megan Hipple, yeah. Megan Hipple took it out hard, first at the mile, second at the 2 mile, dropped to fourth by the end of that 5K. Obviously, not her most impressive race. Fourth in the state, still phenomenal. In 18:17 Division 3 with these conditions, so you're talking about 18 flat performance. I think about 18:17 last year is what won it. So
Just a big
great
year.
race for her regardless.
Yeah.
But that's a deep race.
Yeah.
For D3. over on the team score, another dominating performance. Minster, 63 points. I need a stat on Minster. They have a ton of state titles. I mean, year after year after year, they've been good. That 1929 average, sub 60-second 5-man gap. Obviously huge, and I'll let that kind of take me into my next segment. You can, on the live results, you can look at a compiled, so all divisions, and I'll start with the girls this time instead of the boys. A lot of like what you'd expect. Mason 1, Hilliard 2, Westlake 3, but at 4th, all the way from Division 3. So to be in Division 3, you probably have to have less than 115 girls in your whole school. Minster was 4th. So Minster's 4th on the day. Even look at that, like compared to Mason, has 1,300 girls in their school. And for Minster to even be any sort of conversation, but obviously 4th on the day, phenomenal for Minster. We talk about the strength of D3 this year in these compiled races. Katie Clute, Sarah Peer, 1-2 on the day. And then state champ Paige from Anna, Jaylee Wingate, and Callie Richards make up the 3, 4, 5. Bella Butler, Oakwood girl, puts us 6th fastest time on the day, and then Megan Hippo at 7. So in the top 7, we have more D2 and 3 than D1. It's not usually too heard of, whether it's talent or depth on the day or whatever it is, but interesting.
It's awesome.
Nonetheless. Then we look over on the boys' side. 2 notable teams, obviously just Minster on that last one. I think Granville was 13th, but it's expected, D2 state champ. Mason, big day. They would have had 209 in a compiled race, but then Marlington was second.
That is extremely impressive.
They would have been second by 15 points to St. X. Obviously huge. Colin Cernansky, 3rd fastest time on the day, which would be crazy.
Good stuff.
Good. Phenomenal. For a D2 team to be up there. Also very, very impressive. The D3 state champs, Mount Gilead, 8th on the day. Obviously not quite as impressive as the previously mentioned Minster, but
Still pretty good.
Still phenomenal. D3 mixing it up with the big boys.
Love to see it.
So that kind of wraps up our state meet recap. I want to highlight a couple different freshmen for the meet. Obviously, always cool to watch these guys throughout the year. I'll start with the men. Division 3, Luke Schneider from Rittman. We already talked about him a little bit, talking about him all year. State runner-up, 1550. It's just going to be cool to see where he goes in the future. What does he do on the track? You ran 1550 with the win. Can you run 925, under 920 as a freshman? You'd think 920. But it was just interesting to see his progression.
We'll see.
Yeah, regional champion.
And I hate to sound like I'm taking away from Luke Schneider's performance because I'm not, but when you look at times this season, Landon Kimmel from Tippecanoe is just a highlight reel on mile split. PR of 15:13. He was all Ohio. He was 25th. He ran 16:01. 16:01 in these conditions, of course, still phenomenal for a freshman. But with that 15:13 PR,
that's the thing. That's the one
really
right
going to
there.
be interesting to see where he goes in track.
He could be if he went 426, but he could also run the 2-mile quite well.
He went 426 in middle school.
Yeah, I know.
That's filthy.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Obviously, we'll be talking about these guys come track season, and as we get into indoor through the winter, we'll see where guys are popping up and whatnot. That'll be cool to see. Moving over to the female side, there were a lot of fast females, and I think that is a little bit more common to see some higher placing in the female race.
Enough said.
Testosterone plays a big role in getting faster. So that makes sense. But the number 1 freshman on the day, Effa Pasca from Mason, led the team to another state title. She was 18/20th and was 6th in the Division I race. Actually, 6th as a freshman. Be cool if you can progress from that every year. You're at least state runner-up your senior year.
That's true.
But obviously things aren't always as linear as we'd like them to be. Then Carolyn Mernon from Loveland was 18:38 for 11th. She was Loveland's first runner to put Loveland into 5th overall as a team. Loveland was ranked back a little bit farther than that, so if you're being led by a freshman, usually the future's pretty bright. And obviously Loveland has a big they've been good for a long time. So it'd be cool to see her development. And then I just thought might as well mention one more. Caitlin Carr, she was 7th in D3 with the 1832. I think that kind of goes to show the depth as well. Even just looking at those two freshmen. Carolyn from Loveland was 1838 for 11th in D1, and then Caitlin Carr ran 1832 for 7th in D3.
Yeah.
Rarely are times
Yeah.
that close in D1
That's
and
crazy.
D3. So that speaks some pretty big volume, and there is, of course, some pretty big names in the D3 world this year. It'll be cool to see where a lot of those people commit. Obviously, Jaylee Wingate, state runner-up, just committed to Tennessee. Still waiting on a commitment from Paige and Callie and Megan as well.
All right. Do you want to hear a pretty cool, interesting, maybe useless stat from the combined girls race? So I'm just
Sure.
I'm on the combined
Do we have
page.
a choice here? Should we just say no?
You don't have a
Okay,
choice. I'm
okay.
sorry. I want to mention it. It's kind of it's
Okay.
it's cool to think about. Okay, so Division 1, 2, 3, woman. I was looking through the biggest, I'll say, kick out of everyone, or someone who moved up the most places in the last mile.
Sure.
And while she was very far back in the race, I mean, still ran well at 179th place for the combined. She moved up 118 places in the last mile.
Is she in last place? Or
That doesn't even make sense. Carolyn Harrison from Shaker Heights.
Shaker Heights.
she closing like 5 flat or last mile? Or?
I'm not sure how that works, to be truthful with you. Something, I have no clue. That's interesting stat.
Very interesting. She was on one the last mile apparently.
What happened to?
She had the dog in her.
What happened in D1 girls in the back third of the race? Guess we'll never know.
Eleanor Toe from Butler goes down 133 places in the last mile.
Interesting.
All
And
right.
obviously, I think depth of a race is going to bring a lot into that. It's hard to
It
set.
does.
It's hard to settle into a pace in Division 1. You're just racing the whole time, because if not, you're going to get passed by the next 20 people, or in this case, 118.
Yes.
So that wraps up, though, our state meet recap of everything. Got a small segment left. Maybe Hunter's got a random question for us. I don't know.
Not today, unfortunately.
But what are we looking for in these, kind of post-state meet races? 3 big ones come to mind. We have NXR and NXN, Nike, of course. Then we got, not Foot Locker, actually, Champs now.
What?
Champs bought out Foot Locker or something
When'd that
crazy like
happen?
that. It's called Champs.
Is it actually?
Yes. We're going to
Oh
call
my
it Foot Locker
Foot Locker's
because
sold out.
everyone knows what Foot Locker is. And then that, of course, you have to qualify to Foot Locker Nationals
Yeah.
over in San Diego, I believe.
Yep. Balboa Park.
Those are both kind of like all expenses paid for, bunch of
It's a
gear.
getaway.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
awesome experience if you're able to do that, but you've, of course, earned it if you're top in the
You
nation.
have, yeah.
And then down in Alabama, we got Running Lane, notoriously ridiculously
Notorious.
fast. They're always putting down the fastest times in the nation every year. I know just from talking to Katie Clute the other week that she's going to be at Foot Locker and Running Lane. Tommy, I know, is going to be at NXR. I think he's sitting a little bit on the rest. Not quite sure what he's going to do. We'd obviously love to see some Ohio guys make it to some of these national meets. NXR wasn't around last year. No, NXN, I'm sorry, wasn't around last
Yeah.
year, but NXR was.
Yeah.
So I think we were missing, like, William Zagarski wasn't at the NXR meet with as well as a lot of others. But can we qualify some guys to NXN this year? Connor Ackley
sure,
is
heck we can, yeah.
very NXN
Passes all the
qualified.
Yeah.
Definitely can do that. Tommy Rice was 4th at NXR last year. Obviously, if you're 4th, you'd make it. I mean, those are definitely the 2 that stand out the most to me, even with Tommy getting third. But I don't think Rashudi's or Tommy's races were equivalent to any kind of national qualifying standard. So definitely be cool, though. Next week we'll be watching that for sure.
I think Ackley gets it not for sure. You never know, but he is definitely the most likely on the boys' side.
I
to
agree, and
make
very
the
possible.
national meet.
Right. So that's it. And on the men's side, it's going to be can a team make NXN in Ohio?
Mason's got a good shot.
Mason's got a
Yeah.
shot. They're 20th in the nation
Especially
right
if
now.
like their top guy, Slatler,
Yeah,
especially if he's in that lineup. Insert
absolutely.
Him.
I mean,
feel like, yeah,
Arlington was the next closest team, 24 points, but that's without an Isaac.
Yeah.
Obviously, anything's possible. Top 10 performance, probably top 10
yeah.
performance.
Hope they
But
run.
that doesn't make it out to NXN.
Is Marlington planning on running NXR?
Yes,
Cool.
they are. Then obviously the girls, Katie Clute, no NXR unfortunately, but she's got to be a heavy favorite to. I mean, we got at least got a real good shot to make it to. And or no, I'm not sorry. Foot Locker Nationals. Yes, Champs Nationals, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And so she'll be real good. Obviously, she'll make the championship race at Running Lane. No qualifying standard there, but she hasn't lost the whole season. Her PR is 17:02. So that'd be cool. Sarah Pierre, obviously phenomenal athlete, but as far as a national qualifying standard, probably not. Mason girls were the best on the day. I don't. Mason and Hilliard maybe have an outside chance.
Yeah.
Get in there, mix it up a little bit as a team. But overall, we're just kind of looking for something competitive, some national level performances are always cool. Was anything else, guys?
No, that about wraps it
I
up.
think the girls' side will be very interesting. Very interesting with all the really good individuals this
on
year.
the D3. Yeah. I mean, Patramana.
It's legit. She's
Yeah.
very legit.
Yeah.
And we had Megan Hippel winning.
We did.
She can come
Didn't we?
back strong.
And
We
that
did.
just shows you like how she finished fourth place. Like the mix up that's able to occur in these very deep women's fields. Could this happen at NXR? Can someone make a jump,
feeling
qualify,
good
vice
that day?
versa?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tommy Race was
It'd be really fun to
10th
watch.
last year or 11th at the state meet, and he was 4th at NXR.
Yeah, stuff like that happens every year.
Every single
And-
year. So that'll
Yeah.
definitely be something to keep our eye on. But kind of wrap it up here. Talking Shop Podcast, Ohio's #1 running podcast. Noah Graham, Hunter Moore, and Nathan Moore. Cameraman Alex Keller on it today. Didn't do much, but that's it, boys.
Let's do it.